Over the years, my favorite part of the savory side of Thanksgiving has slowly shifted away from the turkey to that humble, bread-filled side dish that is stuffing. I love that it has that warm, spicy holiday flavor, and it also makes a great sandwich filler, which is my favorite way to use up those inevitable leftovers. And it absorbs gravy like no one's business. Interestingly, unlike the green bean casserole I made a couple of videos ago, stuffing isn't something too out of the ordinary for a Christmas turkey in the United Kingdom. And I have to say, you Brits sure do love your stuffing balls. But what makes this traditional stuffing special, though, is that it includes the not-so-humble shellfish, the oyster. In my opinion, the addition of oysters gives the stuffing an extra something that takes the flavor to another level without making it, well, too fishy. Obviously, if you're allergic to shellfish, don't attempt this recipe or serve it to anyone who might be. That said, if you're trying to incorporate an actual traditional element into your own Thanksgiving meal, this stuffing is something that could potentially have been at the festival that took place in Plymouth to celebrate the first successful harvest, unlike the turkey itself. However, if it was present, this stuffing would probably have been made with corn, which brings me to the magical variation on this dish, which is using cornbread instead of the more Midwestern, traditional, can we even say that anymore? Croutons as its starchy component. In fact, the name oyster dressing is a southern coastal thing, as people in the south of the United States tend to call their stuffing dressings. So, if the first Thanksgiving didn't have a turkey, what was eaten? Well, that is a different story for next week, so stay tuned. Oh, and before I forget to mention it, the recipe for this and my other Thanksgiving dishes are all on my website linked down in the description. So feel free to visit my blog and make these things for yourself. Share your creations with all of us on social media, and you may even be featured on this channel at some point. So now let's get into making the stuffing. Dressing? Yeah, you'll start with croutons, or if you don't have any, as was my situation, a pound of stale bread. Slice up the bread and toast it in the oven on an unlined baking sheet until each slice is crusty. Then chop up your celery, onions, and garlic. To make the peeling easier, I usually smash the garlic under my chef's knife first. Then chop the vegetables as finely as you like. You can see I like mine kind of on the rustic, chunky side with larger pieces. Make the croutons by ripping apart each slice. It really is that simple. If you have more than a pound of croutons left over, bag the extras and just use them in salads. Strain the oysters in your pot so that you reserve the liqueur. Set the oysters aside and then add the broth to the pot. I sometimes make broth by adding a teaspoon of Bisto for every 1 cup of water. And before you come at me, just know that I got that specific tip from a British wartime cookbook, okay? Cool. Let's move on. Once your broth and your liqueur are on the oven heating up, transfer the croutons into a large bowl. Sit that aside with the oysters because, well, they are about to become friends, am I right? Then make the poultry spice. I'm a huge advocate of making your own spice mixes because then they don't have any added salt unless you want them to. You can find all kinds of recipes for poultry spice mixes all over the internet, but if you'd like me to publish my own, please do let me know in the comments below. I keep a dry erase marker in the cutlery drawer so that I can mark my spices and my reusable containers every time I use them. Then, when it's time to wash them, the markers wash right off. Add the oysters and the spices to the croutons. At this stage, the ingredients will seem to be a little bit too much for your casserole dish to handle, but I promise that everything will fit. Just add the wet ingredients. After the broth and the mixture has warmed and cooled so that you can actually touch it, then you'll add it just enough so that the croutons are wet but not too soggy. Begin to mix everything together, and I'll say it's honestly easiest if you just use your own washed hands for this. If it's too dry, just add some more broth. When everything is properly incorporated, taste it and make sure that it's spiced to your liking, and add the mixture to your baking dish. I'm using a cast iron pan, but a casserole dish or even a cake pan should do the trick just fine. As usual, all of the details on how to preheat your oven, how much of everything should go in, all of that stuff is on my blog, so be sure to take a look at your leisure, of course. And did I mention that I try to keep ahead on the cleanup while the food is baking? My patrons helped me buy this dishwasher, which means I actually have time to make videos for all you guys now. So, if you would like to support Old Fashioned AF too, you can do so by visiting patreon.com/oldfashioned_AF. Link is in the description as usual. And when the stuffing is ready, it should look toasted on top and stick together, but release itself slightly from the edges of the pan to show you that it's ready. I am confident that even your friends and family members who don't fancy shellfish will love the stuffing. Rather than giving the stuffing a fishy edge, the oysters enhance the warm, wintry flavors of this dish so beautifully. Do you have a stuffing at Thanksgiving or Christmas or another holiday? Please let me know in the comments below, and bon appetit!